লেবানন থেকে আর এই পর্যন্ত থেকে আমরা 10 লক্ষ টাকা খরচ গেছে আর কি দুইবার ধরা খাইছি তিন কেমের বেলায় এটা সফল হইছে
Currently, more people than ever are on the move worldwide in search of a better life.
পরে খাইছি কিছুদিন খাওয়ার পর একটা লোক আবার এই ব্যবসাটা ধরাই দিল যে এনে এসে ব্যবসা করেন
Find out about Bailey's story. Info Migrants.
Frankfurt Airport, international gateway to the best connections of air, road and rail.
This has been a Now Media Networks feature presentation. All rights reserved.
This is DW News live from Berlin. Israel and Hezbollah launch attacks against each other, escalating the conflict in the Middle East. Israel says its warplanes destroyed thousands of rocket launchers in what it calls preemptive strikes in southern Lebanon, while Hezbollah says it launched hundreds of missiles and drones against Israel. Also on the program, the billionaire boss of the messaging app Telegram is held in France. Authorities accuse Pavel Durov of turning a blind eye to criminals using his encrypted app. But Telegram insists he has nothing to hide. I'm David Levitz. Good to have you with us. Israel says waves of its planes have carried out preemptive strikes against Hezbollah militants in Lebanon, where authorities reported 3 people killed. Hezbollah says it's launched hundreds of rockets and drones against Israel in retaliation for the assassination of one of its commanders last month in Beirut.
Early morning in northern Israel. The Iron Dome springs into action as Hezbollah begins what the militant group calls Phase 1 of an attack on Israel. Hundreds of rockets and drones fired towards 11 military sites. Retaliation, it says, for the killing of one of its commanders in Beirut last month. Hezbollah says it struck a military base near Tel Aviv, a claim Israel denies. Hezbollah's chief cites the Gaza ceasefire talks as the reason for their delayed response to their commander's death in a televised address.
They started saying that there will be a stop to the aggression and that there was going to be a ceasefire and to hold off. And that's why we took our time. We didn't tell anyone we would take our time, but honestly we did, to give room for these negotiations.
He warned that Hezbollah's response may not yet be over. Israel says it began preemptive airstrikes on Sunday against Hezbollah targets in Lebanon after they detected plans of an attack against its territory. The IDF claimed 100 fighter jets have struck and destroyed thousands of Hezbollah rocket launcher barrels aimed at Israel. It also released these images it says are of a Hezbollah drone being intercepted. Israel's Prime Minister issued a warning after an emergency national security cabinet meeting.
We're determined to do everything to protect our country, return the residents of the north to their homes, and continue to follow a simple rule. Whoever hurts us, we hurt them.
Sunday's escalation further heightens tensions as talks to reach a ceasefire and a hostage release deal in Gaza continue.
Look, it was a significant escalation, but it is the Middle East. There were bombs in the morning and by the afternoon. In Israel and Lebanon, the beaches were open, and in Egypt, the ceasefire talks continued. It's Middle East math. There are many open accounts. So I do think, to answer your question, there will be more, unfortunately. And as Prime Minister Netanyahu himself said, this is not the end of the story. That was his quote. I mean, there's still, open account with the Houthis. There's more potentially with Hezbollah. The Israeli civilians can't return to their homes, which are ghost villages right now in the north. A school is starting. It'll be the second year that Israeli children aren't able to attend school in their hometowns along that northern border. And of course, there's Iran hanging out there. So I'm sorry to say at the start of our week that this is not the end.
Now let's just talk a little bit about the timing of the Hezbollah attack on Israel. Hezbollah says it was retaliating against Israel for the killing of one of its commanders last month, but they didn't launch their massive attack until Israel attacked southern Lebanon. Why do you think that they waited?
Well, part of it I do take at face value what Nasrallah said. I mean, the ceasefire talks, there's been no breakthrough, but they haven't had a breakdown. And he certainly doesn't want to be part of that kind of blame game while they can't agree on the end game between Israel and Hamas. Part of it is, a bid for world favor. Another thing is, as the head of the Mossad once told me, but I think Nasrallah is following the same rule, when it comes to retaliation, you choose the timing, you choose the method, and you choose the battlefield. And part of it is by making your opponent wait is the kind of psychological head game, right? Where the Israelis have been on edge. So have the Lebanese, for that matter. But the Israelis have been, in sort of deep angst mode. The economy is suffering, and all that is part of the pain. It's part of the punishment.
And talking about waiting for retaliation, let's just talk about Iran briefly. They vowed revenge on Israel for the killing of Hamas's political chief Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran last month. So far, they haven't attacked Israel. What do you think's going on there?
Well, I think Iran, for sure, is playing the long game. There is a clock ticking down in Palestine Square in Tehran, which is a doomsday clock, which supposedly is going to, count down to Israel's annihilation. They do want punishment. I do believe there is a sort of need for blood for blood. And it could potentially show the form of some kind of terrorist attack abroad, perhaps. But in the meantime, the United States has sent 2 strike force carrier groups, and that submarine that they sent is not a defensive weapon. It is an offensive submarine, and I think that they're getting that message loud and clear.
Middle East analyst Laura Blumenfeld, thank you for your insights.
Thank you.
Well, as we've heard, Hezbollah's attack on Israel was in retaliation for an Israeli airstrike. Israel relies on a complex air defense system to protect itself.
April 2024. Israel sustains a massive missile barrage from Iran. More than 300 drones, rockets and missiles form a coordinated attack. For Israel's air defense systems, it's the greatest challenge yet. Israel claims it intercepted 99% of those hostile missiles and drones. So how does it achieve that kind of success? It's down to a multi-layered air defense approach, comprising a number of moving parts, in some cases quite literally. Truck-towed missile units form the innermost layer, the Iron Dome. It tackles short-range threats such as rockets and mortars and was developed with help from the US. It has intercepted thousands of rockets since it was instituted in 2011, and Israel claims it has a 90% success rate. Next comes David's Sling for mid-range threats. That is designed to shoot down ballistic missiles fired from between 40 kilometers to 300 kilometers away. Again, it was developed in collaboration with the US. And the outermost layer is the Arrow for the longer-range ballistic missiles. It operates outside the Earth's atmosphere in space, which allows for the safe dispersal of any non-conventional warheads. Regardless of the method, intercepting rockets is a costly business. The cost of one Arrow interceptor missile is between $2 and $3.5 million. According to media reports, 110 of them were used to defend against the Iranian attack, suggesting a cost of $385 million. The mid-range rockets from the David Sling system are about $1 million each. Estimates put the cost at $550 million to $1.1 billion just for the April operation. there is another important layer too. Israel's Air Force, a key part of its defence picture. And in addition to all this, there are new tools coming online, such as the laser-powered Iron Beam, set to be integrated into Israel's multi-layered and seemingly successful air defence system.
To the war in Ukraine now, and for frontline troops there, the main concern is, of course, staying alive. But the constant need to evade bombs and bullets means that routine personal care, like brushing their teeth, can go neglected. More than 2 years into the war, urgent dental treatment can make all the difference.
Braving the bombs, Ukraine's so-called dental battalion. Once a month, these men make the long trip from Kiev to frontline cities in a van they've converted into a mobile dental clinic. Soldiers get medical care when they are injured, but regular dental checkups are rare. Vlad and his assistant Semen have brought everything they need. They provide vital service. Getting a toothache at the front can mean the difference between life and death.
When we first started travelling, many military personnel were very pleased with our work, that we were alleviating acute pain and helping them resolve their dental problems. They say that when it hurts, you think about it all the time and you can't concentrate on your work.
The next morning, they receive their first patients. Even though they're trained to use deadly weapons, the soldiers are still nervous about the dentist's drill. This soldier hasn't been to the dentist in the 2 years since the war began. A few days ago, the pain started and it's now unbearable. He's going to need root surgery.
We are on the front line, and sometimes we don't even have time to brush our teeth. And when you have a tooth that hurts, you can't focus on your target or combat mission. Let's say you are distracted from your combat mission.
The service goes beyond dental care. The soldiers say it's nice to be treated as a human being with normal needs.
Coming to a place where you can actually get anesthesia and have your teeth properly treated is really great. We don't have access to anesthesia and painkillers.
The end of a long day. As the war with Russia drags on, more and more mobile services are needed. Charitable conditions make them possible, and Vlad and his team volunteer their time. He knows he could soon be called up to fight too. But until then, Vlad sees this as his contribution.
I want to do something for victory, to help the military somehow. I believe that everyone should do what they're good at. I am good at treating teeth. I am good at dentistry. So that's how I help the military and address their problems.
Vlad and his team will be on the road for 5 days. They leave this military base and head for the next frontline city, where a different unit is already waiting for them.
Supporters of the founder of the Telegram messaging app are demanding his release. Russian-born billionaire Pavel Durov was arrested at a French airport. French authorities accuse him of failing to stamp out criminal activity on the platform.
A white paper plane, the logo of the Telegram messaging app. Supporters of Pavel Durov leave them outside the French embassy in Moscow in protest at the app founder's arrest near Paris.
I support him because I feel sorry for him.
The Russian parliament's deputy speaker is among those calling for Durov's release.
People like Pavel Durov should be appreciated and respected. They should not be imprisoned. The value of Telegram is already bigger than Gazprom. Once again, the West has trampled on freedom of speech. Freedom for Pavel Durov.
In fact, it was restrictions on freedom that drove Durov, a Russian-born billionaire, to leave the country. He says he refused to share user data with the Russian authorities. Durov, who now holds multiple citizenships, including French, founded Telegram in 2013. The platform has been praised for keeping users' data confidential, but Durov has also been criticized for failing to stop criminal and terror groups using Telegram. Elon Musk, who also refuses to moderate content on X, defended Durov and shared the hashtag #FreePavel. The Telegram platform in turn said that it's absurd to claim that a platform or its owner are responsible for abuse of that platform.
Well, you're up to date, but keep it here on DW. Up next, we meet an Indian mother juggling ultra-marathon running with family life and overcoming deep-seated social prejudices. I'm David Levitz. Thanks for watching. You can also download our DW News app or go to our website at dw.com for more news. Take care. Bye-bye.
Living in a polarized world, our society is full of contrasts, and inequality is a big challenge. Many problems can only be solved by working together.
Yes, I think capitalism is slavery.
What is home? How do we tackle the major issues of our time? Let's talk about it.
There is a significant risk of human extinction from advanced AI systems.
Climate change is the new frontier of social inequalities.
Our series continues, Us and Them, starts September 1st on DW. I take care of my family, manage a cafe, and consistently train to run.
This is Tenzin Dolma.
My dream is to represent India internationally. My neighbors complain about my running.
Married at just 15 and a mother at 19, Tenzin has found freedom in running ultramarathons high in northern India's Himalayas. She does it without any institutional support, funds or training. This means a difficult balancing act between providing for her family in a rural village and reaching her athletic potential, all while racing against social expectations for women and mothers.
I want to send a message to all the girls out there. If I can run, why can't you? In my hometown, girls are not encouraged to run. I need to train by myself, and there's no one to guide me. I'm often told either I should do this or I shouldn't do that. Some people taunt me, asking me why, as a woman, I run. For them, women only run in the army. I do all the household chores, run my cafe, and on top of that, consistently train and participate in some of India's most competitive races.
Tenzin's father passed away when she was a child.
I've struggled ever since childhood. At 15, I was married off to a stranger. I didn't live a normal life. I don't remember my father's face. I didn't experience things I should have in my childhood. It's one of the reasons I started running. I wanted to prove to myself that I could overcome challenges. I didn't want my past to limit me. My days are usually spent doing chores. My life can't just be that. I can dream and achieve things for myself.
Tenzin is one of India's most active ultramarathon runners. She runs a small cafe in the Himalayas and is her family's main breadwinner. Though she only began running at 32, she's won titles in 12 of the 18 races she's taken part in.
My goal is to participate in international races and represent India.
That won't be easy, given Tenzin's reality.
I have the talent to participate and win. I do the necessary training. Just because I'm financially weak, I fall behind.
An ultramarathon in the neighbouring village of Manali would give Tenzin another chance to prove herself.
A 100-kilometer marathon is being organized in my hometown. It's called the Rohtang Challenge. I'm excited to run on my home turf. I don't think it will rain today.
Tenzin is self-coached, embarking on grueling 13-hour mountain marathon runs without any official training. This has meant a steep learning process and a heightened risk of injury. And though she's consistently proven her talent with strong showings, Tenzin still struggles to raise funds for races, adding another challenge to an already difficult sport.
I don't have a running community around me, so I have to train alone. There's no one to guide me or let me know what I should avoid or the right way to do things.
When Tenzin came to the hospital, she was experiencing a slight pain in her right hip in what's called the inguinal region, and her pain used to get worse when she lifted her leg or trained. Since she had no one there to guide her, she was doing random exercises which caused her injury. But even after getting injured, she kept training. She didn't rest, and this worsened her condition. Her career, which is basically running, could have been affected, but still she endured and performed well. Besides the challenge of hoping to represent India internationally, despite her economic precarity, Tenzin is also confronted with the daily social pressure of women hoping to succeed in male-dominated sports. This is only compounded in rural India, where women rarely have the opportunity to pursue sports in the first place. Tenzin stands out among her neighbours.
She should run, travel and see places, educate herself and excel in her passion.
She shouldn't live like us. We've grown old. We've done nothing like her. Not everyone is supportive, though.
This new generation, they won't follow traditions. Working a single job isn't sufficient to raise a family.
Tenzin was raised by her single mother. Tenzin's running is hard to understand for an older generation. People keep complaining about you running. They ask how you have time for it and what you gain from it. I just sit quietly and don't answer.
I was married off at such a young age. If I wasn't, I could have had a better life.
What else could I do? Your father died early. My other kids went their separate ways. Everyone left the village. I was left behind with you to look after. I thought the only way to survive was marry you off. If you're doing something, do it for yourself. Don't listen to these people.
During every race, there comes a moment when you ask yourself, why am I doing this? I remind myself that I'm extremely passionate about this. I can't quit halfway. This is my dream. All this is in the back of my mind during the race. Why did I choose such a difficult path? Running in the rain and snow. Why did I choose this? I've come to the conclusion that you suffer if you choose this. I blame myself.
Tenzin's problems aren't just hers or mine. There are many women like us who share our passion but cannot run. Whenever Tenzin and I train, most people we pass stare at us. They talk about us, ask, who are these two girls running? Even acquaintances say things like, where are you guys running off to? Tenzin suffers more than I do because she is a bit older. She has been repeatedly discouraged and asked why she's running at this age. People tell her to do her chores. I can't explain how inspirational she is for our whole state and for the world at large. Even after being married and living in a patriarchal society, she's forging her own identity despite societal pressure. She motivates girls around her village. She's not just running for herself. She has a different energy, which is rare in a woman of her age. It's impressive because her family is conservative. That's why I appreciate her. Slowly but surely, Tenzin's helped change opinions of those around her.
I run challenging races because I like choosing the difficult path. I know what I'm capable of and that I have the potential for even more. The main challenge is coming up. I couldn't really train for this race. I had pulled a muscle 3 months ago. It was the same story with another recent marathon that I couldn't properly prepare for.
Tenzin started racing as an outlet for herself. Her running has become a challenge and an inspiration to many around her.
Some people are happy with me. They're inspired by my story and think I'm doing something meaningful. Others are critical, asking me what I'm busting my legs for. Some people even say to my face, what happened to you? Running is normal. And call me crazy. They say all I do is run and don't look after my family. But I want to send a message to all the girls out there. If I can run, why can't you? I will always maintain that women have their own passions, which they should pursue. They should live to do chores or be suppressed by expectations. That's why I don't give up, even when things get rough. I won't give up on my passion.
What are sports all about? Winning? Fighting? Scoring?
We say they're about never giving up. The most exciting sports stories about people, their passions, and their drive. Sports Life, every weekend on DW.
Whoa! This is one of the weirdest theme parks in the world, where behind all of these amusement rides are a bit of Swabian culture and history. Let's go! That wasn't fun at all. Poor bro, it's okay. It's exactly how I feel.
Euromax. Next on DW.
Me chamaram para mim ser encarregado, só que eu não quis. Mas exatamente por causa disso, por causa da escolaridade. Porque eu sabia que eles iam me pedir o meu grau de escolaridade.
Millions of people around the world can't attend school, even though the UN defines it as a human right. Education for everyone. But how? Global Us. In 45 minutes on DW. The untold story. An eye for detail. A different point of view. Find it here. Reporter, every weekend on DW.
Balkan street food. In Eastern Europe, it's all about cevapcici, a favorite among locals and tourists alike. Must-see moments in the Eternal City. We take you on a tour of Rome. And adrenaline rush at an amusement park. Euromax reporter Brant Dennis embarks on a quirky adventure. These stories and more coming up on Euromax. But first, how can you help fight climate change, especially when you're still a kid? Well, meet Lenny, an 11-year-old who came up with a clever idea.
Here comes what may be Germany's youngest climate champion.
I want to protect the climate with my tree project, so I planted a forest.
This as big as the European Union is the size of the forest destroyed in the last 30 years around the world. That's about 420 million hectares. But here in Germany, a new forest is growing, planted by an 11-year-old boy. Introducing Lenny Kraut, a young and very dedicated climate activist, as part of our new series Small Projects, Big Changes. It all began with a simple idea. The world needs more trees, but it turned into something big. 17,000 saplings planted in an area about the size of 3 soccer pitches. They'll be forming a brand new forest near Lenny's hometown of Karben in western Germany. And Lenny did it almost all on his own. So Lenny, how do you come up with this cool idea?
I was on vacation with my family on Crete. The land there is very dry. And on the way back, we talked about climate change and stuff. I wanted to do something about the climate crisis. And I don't want my town to look like that. So I started collecting donations.
Lots of people feel like they ought to be doing something, but Lenny did it. In 2 years, he collected some 32,000 euros. His hometown rounded the sum up to 40,000 and made the land available. Very good. You are already a pro. Forester Eckhard Richter helped to choose the best trees for the job.
I thought it was sensational. I've been a forester for 30 years now, and I've never had the opportunity to reforest such a large area. It used to be cropland, and climate change has already hit this place. Many beaches are ailing, and some have already died, and the spruces have practically disappeared. The trees we've planted do fairly well in dry and hot climates.
Lenny planned the whole project in an office he nailed together himself in the yard. He painted posters and mapped out the next steps. In the course of 2 years, the project grew and grew. Where did you go and what did you do?
First, I contact our mayor, since I can't just plant some random trees in some random place. Then I ran around collecting donations, and we contacted some companies. Then TV teams showed up. Even though I never actually contacted them, they came to us.
So, Lenny got the support of the entire town, and of his parents, of course. They help with his social media appearances.
Hi, I'm Lenny from Carbon, and I'd like to plant some trees here. To that, I'm collecting donations. I'm doing this to fight climate change.
We're all totally proud of Lenny because he just went and did it, and he stayed with it for more than 2 years and didn't give up. Even though for a child, that's an incredibly long time.
The first doorbell I pressed for my tree project was our neighbors. And I think since it was my first time asking for donations, they gave me €3.
That first little donation was the beginning for the forest growing now. And even while it grows, it's already taking carbon dioxide out of the earth and helping the climate. Inspired by Lenny, the town of Carbon is already planning to reforest more areas, and Lenny has new plans.
I got the idea to set up gift boxes in Carbon, and if it works out, maybe in other towns too. So if you've got an old pan lying around at home that you don't want to throw away, you can put it in the box. And someone else can take it and put other things in.
Small projects, big changes. It will be many years before Lenny's forest looks like this one, but when it does, it will provide clean air for many generations.
How do you curb your hunger when you're out and about? With a hot dog or fish and chips? Or maybe a Greek gyro? We've got another delicious idea for you.
Lightly seasoned, succulently grilled. Cevapcici is enough to make any meat lover's mouth water. A Balkan classic. But who makes the best? To find out, we visit Bosnia, Serbia, and Romania. Everybody knows it's a Bosnian specialty.
The best is definitely from Serbia.
The taste of Romania. Our dishes are one of a kind. Our first stop is Sarajevo, the capital of Bosnia and Herzegovina. In the old town, we're greeted by the sumptuous smell of cevapi, as it's known here at every street corner. I'm Salim Ogrečvić, third-generation owner of Nuna Cevap in Sarajevo. It was first opened by my grandfather in 1966. Cevapi are a culinary remnant of Ottoman rule in the Balkans. We only use beef for our cevap. That's how it was originally made, so we keep it that way, beef only. The mince is salted and kneaded. That's it. It's then pressed through a machine and portioned. That way Salim can work much faster. Salim swears by charcoal. He tells us it's the only way to give the cevapi their characteristic taste and smell. How long the cevap take depends on the temperature of the grill. We prepare them so that they're ready in around 7 to 10 minutes. You can tell they're ready to be taken off the grill by their color. When the meat is golden brown on the outside, then they're done. In Sarajevo, cevapi are usually served on flatbread. And importantly, the bread too has to be grilled and crisp. The bread absorbs the smoke from the grill and the fat from the chevap. This makes the bread nice and soft and improves the taste. Finally, the cevapi is topped with raw onions, as is traditional in Sarajevo, and optionally with a dollop of kaymak, a kind of sour cream. Depending on your appetite, you might order 5, 10, or if you're feeling brave, 15 cevapi. I like them when they're freshly grilled. I don't like that they're kept on the grill too long. I eat so many of them. They're as much a part of my life as bread. Onions are key. They're just part of it. Bosnia is proud of its cevapi. It's even seeking protected status for the classic dish. But it's not the only country battling for cevapi primacy. Serbia, for example. Here in the country's third largest city, Niš, they have their own version of the classic. Here, cevapcici is seasoned with salt, pepper, and a little garlic water.
We've been offering the same quality since day one. People know that. That's why they love our cevapcici. They're made from pure beef, delicious, incomparable.
The cevapcici from Sarajevo and ours are very similar, but the Serbian ones are still better. I think in Sarajevo they eat the cevapcici more on the go, like we eat burek. But here we sit down in order to enjoy them. Next up, Romania. Here in Bucharest, the dish is known as mici. Here they contain an ingredient found nowhere else, baking soda. And it was precisely this that the EU wanted to ban some time ago. But the Romanians prevailed and saved their decades-old recipe. We only put a little baking soda in it. We used to overdo it because that's just the way we Romanians are. It makes the mici bigger. With baking soda, they almost double in size.
It's delicious. Yeah. It's sausages without the skin. Makes it easier to eat.
You're drawn in by the aroma. I wanted to buy groceries, but now I have to eat mici here first before I can go in. Whether small, big, with or without pepper, or even a dash of garlic water. In the Balkans, cevapcici are the star of the show. Have you tried them?
Time now to head to the Eternal City. The Italian capital, Rome, attracts some 35 million visitors each year, but it's been struggling with the impact of these numbers. So do the pictures on Instagram reflect the reality? We went there to find out.
Want to take some stunning Rome pics? No problem. The city offers an abundance of Instagrammable spots. Is Rome an Instagram hotspot? It's time for a reality check. Central Rome offers plenty of places where you can snap pics of yourself or loved ones against the backdrop of iconic sites. Many of them world-class tourist attractions. Trevi Fountain is probably Rome's most recognizable site. It's an unmissable Instagram spot. There's hardly a tourist who'd want to miss out on seeing the Trevi Fountain. And even if you can make it look like you had this place all to yourself, in reality you'll be visiting with lots of other tourists. No matter the time of day or night, some 1,200 visitors flock here every hour, according to official sources. Then there's the popular coin-tossing tradition. According to legend, anyone who does so will return to the Eternal City.
It's cool to have a selfie near the Trevi Fountain. It's a beautiful place. It's great for Instagram. But Rome is not just this. Rome is not just these busy piazzas. It's not just these busy streets.
In short, we think Trevi Fountain is worth visiting, just to take a quick picture. And on to Instagram spot number 2, Trastevere. The Trastevere neighborhood is next to Rome's historic city center. Once a working-class area, Trastevere has changed over the past 3 decades. It's now a nightlife district popular with locals and, above all, tourists. But Trastevere still remains a great place to explore and experience some Italian traditions.
After about the 90s, 80s, 90s, Trastevere became a place for single, for artists, for young people. Now it's changed a lot and become a lot of B&B. It's become very touristic place.
We think Trastevere is worth visiting, even though it's full of tourists. There's still plenty to discover. And now on to Rome's Instagram spot number 3, the Spanish Steps. It's a popular tourist spot, especially at night. The Spanish Steps lead up to the Trinità dei Monti Church. They were built between 1723 and 1726. These steps are famous with tourists from all over the world.
It's quite impressive, it's quite monumental. I think it looks good by day, but come on, the lighting, everything, you can see the church in the top, it's just beautiful. I mean, come on, look at that.
In 2019, the city introduced new rules. It's now forbidden to sit on the steps, and this rule is strictly enforced.
I think it's good. It was too crowded. You cannot walk above and downstairs. So I think it's good.
Maybe this is good rule, I think.
So what's our summary? The Spanish Steps are a fabulous Instagram spot, if whistling police officers don't bother you. Trastevere is a great place for longer stays, and there's lots to discover, including some great cocktail bars. And if you appreciate architectural beauty and don't mind crowds, Trevi Fountain is a must-see.
Next up, do you love the thrill of roller coasters or the swing of a carousel? There are plenty of theme parks in Europe, but only one where you can also learn the history about the region of Swabia in southwestern Germany.
This is one of the weirdest theme parks in the world, where behind all of these amusement rides are a bit of Swabian culture and history. Poor bro, it's okay. It's exactly how I feel. Swabia is a region in southern Germany, and the Swabians are its indigenous people. It's also the location of the Tripsdrill amusement park. There are many cliches about Swabians, stingy and straight-laced, but also hardworking and innovative. What kind of humor do Swabians have?
We call it in English ironic.
A rather dry humor, like English humor.
And very dirty.
Okay, I think I need someone to be my guide on a tour of what they call the Schwabenländle, the region just outside Stuttgart. Berger Meyer Johann is the right man for that, and he knows Germany's oldest amusement park like the back of his hand. What kind of park would you say this is, then?
Our park is based on stories from Swabia in the 19th century, and, well, we also like to use some legends and tales of the area.
Nearly every one of the 100 attractions has a Swabian connection. So does the architecture of the park's Dorfstrasse. The half-timbered houses are typical of Swabia. Our first stop is the roller coaster. So what kind of ride is this, Birger?
The ride is called Voldampf, which means something like full steam. The theme is the Swabian Railway. It's a folk song from the 19th century from the area.
Auf der Schwäbische Eisenbahn dürfen Kühe und Ochse fahren, wir bleiben Wein und Mann.
Incidentally, the rail line from the song still exists. Memory of how I was a child on a child's ride. How wonderful. The Swabians may not have invented the steam engine, but they can take credit for many other things, as I'll soon find out. But first, Birger and I have a challenge to take on. We have to move the wings just right to make as many turns as we can.
So you did 3 turns.
3?
Yeah, that's not bad at all. Me, I only did 1.
Is there some sort of Swabian tradition behind this?
The history is Swabian.
Yeah.
It's a true story of the tailor of Ulm. And in 1811, he invented a flying device.
Was he successful?
Partly. He announced that he would give it a try at the Danube River, and then he jumped off with his flying device. But there was just bad luck. There was some strong winds. He fell into the Danube River. He was rescued, so he did survive that.
In spite of this one mishap, the Swabians have a reputation as inventors. They came up with the first type of match, maybe even the first teddy bear. They even created Hollywood. In 1912, Karl Lemler, a Swabian, bought a poultry farm in Los Angeles and used the land to start Universal Studios. The Spätzle press was invented here too. Of course, it's indispensable to Swabian cuisine. The classic Swabian dishes are simple and hearty. Small wonder the Swabians were generally poor farmers. I hoped we could slow down a bit after that big meal, but Birger likes action. Or is it just his way of having fun with me? That wasn't fun. That wasn't fun at all. That was not fun. I don't want to... I feel okay. It's fine.
I hope you feel better than him.
But what's wrong with him?
I think he ate more than you did.
That's beautiful. The sarcastic, folksy Swabian sense of humour seems to be infectious. On every corner of Tripsdrill are these odd, funny little figures, like this talking litter basket.
Maybe you want to climb that ladder. Let's see what happens there.
Why?
Well, there's no surprise for you.
In Swabian, it's called Fenstern, an old-fashioned method of courting a bride from the Schwabenländler. The gentleman would come calling on his sweetheart by climbing a ladder up to her window, but sometimes instead of his one and only, he would find parents at the top, a rude surprise. And so our day at Tripsdrill theme park comes to a close. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for your visit, and please be our ambassador for Swabia all around the world.
Classical music is just for older people, right? Not according to internationally acclaimed violinist Esther Abrami. She uses social media to get young people to fall in love with this musical genre.
Do TikTok and classical music go together? Esther Abrami thinks they do, like hand in glove. The violinist has become a classical music sensation on social media. She has around 425,000 followers on TikTok alone.
My name is Esther Abrami. I'm a classical violinist, and what I love about classical music is the fact that it can make you feel very deep emotions.
Whether in the concert or at home, Esther's fans follow her daily musical routine up close and personal on social media. Her cell phone is always close at hand, even when she's practicing.
3, 2, 1. I use it really just as a platform, as a way in order to make classical music more accessible. And it's also a great way to have a community, to build a community of people who have nothing to do with classical music and who have kind of sometimes their first access to classical music.
Abrami was born in France, but we met up with her at her current residence in Manchester, England. She started studying at Chetham's School of Music at age 14. At first, she couldn't really speak English, but she knew she wanted to be a professional violinist.
Never a plan B. I don't know. I wanted that. I think I only thought of, I didn't think of a plan B when I was 18 and all my friends around me that's the moment when you question yourself what you want to do. But I knew since like I was 10 years old what I wanted to do, so I never really questioned myself, and which is a bit scary actually.
Here she's reuniting with one of her favorite piano teachers, John Middleton. Mastering just one instrument wasn't enough for her, and he had an impact on her musical studies. Esther's brought her third album along for this visit. It's only been 9 years since she left school.
Very, very proud. Whether that's the right emotion, I don't care, because I just feel really, really proud to have taught her to have something, some little input. And I always believe it's a little input that makes a big difference.
And of course, this trip back into Abrami's own past is being recorded for fans on social media. But her real passion is music. And to get where she wants to be, she has to practice, practice, and practice. Esther shares this part of her day online too.
I have, for example, on YouTube as well, watch me practice videos. So people literally, I open the camera and they come into my world of practice. Again, it's something that hardly anyone does because it isn't comfortable. You do have to be really confident in order to show something that is not perfect.
The hard work pays off. Esther's concerts are well received all across Europe. The award-winning violinist also offers online workshops worldwide for all musicians. Her students and fans are very important to her.
A lot of the time, I have people coming to me at the end of the concert saying, this was my first classical concert, and this feels really nice. It's always so nice, I think, when you actually get to meet people and it's also they tell you, oh, I've been following you for that many years and I've seen you grow, and that's really nice. That's what you want, right? To have I don't know, that's what I love about it.
Esther Abrami brings two worlds together that rarely overlap. She's opening up new horizons on social media.
And you can keep up with us on our social media channels as well. Be sure to follow us to stay up to date on the latest culture stories from Europe. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again next week.
Me chamaram para mim ser encarregado, só que eu não quis. Mas exatamente por causa disso, por causa da escolaridade. Eu sabia que eles iam me pedir o meu grau de escolaridade.
Millions of people around the world can't attend school, even though the UN defines it as a human right. Education for everyone. But how? Global Us. In 15 minutes on DW. Understanding the forest in order to save it. All over the world, people are trying to revive this unique ecosystem. They are reforesting against climate change And it's working. Everywhere. Urban forests. In 60 minutes on DW.
What did you do before? I played cello. Fantastic.
She survived Auschwitz thanks to music. He was the Nazis' favorite conductor.
He is morally degenerate.
Two musicians under the swastika. A documentary about the sounds of power. An inspiring story about survival.
Go get the cellist. I was the only one. What luck.
Music in Nazi Germany. Watch now on YouTube. DW Documentary.
Imagine that you're eating a hamburger, and as you're biting into this juicy burger, your dining companion says to you, actually, that hamburger is not made from cows. It's made from golden retrievers.
Who should we eat?
In meat-eating cultures around the world, people learn to classify a small handful of animals as edible, and all the rest they classify as disgusting.
A docuseries about our complex relationship with animals. The Great Meat Debate. Watch now on YouTube. DW Documentary.
This is DW News live from Berlin. Israel and Hezbollah escalate the conflict in the Middle East, but pull back from the brink of all-out war. Israel says its warplanes destroyed thousands of rocket launchers in what it calls preemptive strikes in southern Lebanon, while Hezbollah says it sent hundreds of missiles and drones against Israel. Also on the program, the billionaire boss of the messaging app Telegram is held in France. Authorities accuse Pavel Durov of turning a blind eye to criminals using his encrypted app. But Telegram insists he has nothing to hide. And crossing continents from Asia to Europe through Istanbul's fast-flowing waters. Thousands of swimmers take part in the annual race across the Bosporus. I'm David Letts. Welcome to the program. Israel and Hezbollah have stepped up the conflict in the Middle East, trading heavy fire, but have so far stopped short of all-out war. Israel says it struck Hezbollah militants in Lebanon to prevent a major attack on Israeli territory. Hezbollah says it's assessing the impact of hundreds of rockets and drones it launched against Israel.
Early morning in northern Israel. The Iron Dome springs into action as Hezbollah begins what the militant group calls Phase 1 of an attack on Israel. Hundreds of rockets and drones fired towards 11 military sites. Retaliation, it says, for the killing of one of its commanders in Beirut last month. Hezbollah says it struck a military base near Tel Aviv, a claim Israel denies. Hezbollah's chief cites the Gaza ceasefire talks as the reason for their delayed response to their commander's death in a televised address.
They started saying that there will be a stop to the aggression and that there was going to be a ceasefire and to hold off. And that's why we took our time. We didn't tell anyone we would take our time, but honestly, we did, to give room for these negotiations.
He warned that Hezbollah's response may not yet be over. Israel says it began preemptive airstrikes on Sunday against Hezbollah targets in Lebanon after they detected plans of an attack against its territory. The IDF claimed 100 fighter jets have struck and destroyed thousands of Hezbollah rocket launcher barrels aimed at Israel. It also released these images it says are of a Hezbollah drone being intercepted. Israel's prime minister issued a warning after an emergency national security cabinet meeting.
We're determined to do everything to protect our country, return the residents of the north to their homes, and continue to follow a simple rule. Whoever hurts us, we hurt them.
Sunday's escalation further heightens tensions as talks to reach a ceasefire and a hostage release deal in Gaza continue.
Laura Blumenfeld is a former advisor to the U.S. State Department's Israeli-Palestinian negotiating team. I asked her whether the attacks between Israel and Hezbollah represent a brief escalation or if we should expect to see more.
Look, it was a significant escalation, but it is the Middle East. There were bombs in the morning and by the afternoon. In Israel and Lebanon, the beaches were open, and in Egypt, the ceasefire talks continued. It's Middle East math. There are many open accounts. So I do think, to answer your question, there will be more, unfortunately. And as Prime Minister Netanyahu himself said, this is not the end of the story. That was his quote. I mean, there's still, open account with the Houthis. There's more potentially with Hezbollah. The Israeli civilians can't return to their homes, which are ghost villages right now in the north. A school is starting. It'll be the second year that Israeli children aren't able to attend school in their hometowns along that northern border. And of course, there's Iran hanging out there. So I'm sorry to say at the start of our week that this is not the end.
Middle East analyst Laura Blumenfeld there. Well, Israel was able to shoot down most of Hezbollah's projectiles using its multi-billion-euro missile defense systems. They've already been put to the test more than once this year.
April 2024. Israel sustains a massive missile barrage from Iran. More than 300 drones, rockets and missiles form a coordinated attack. For Israel's air defense systems, it's the greatest challenge yet. Israel claims it intercepted 99% of those hostile missiles and drones. So how does it achieve that kind of success? It's down to a multi-layered air defense approach, comprising a number of moving parts, in some cases quite literally. Truck-towed missile units form the innermost layer, the Iron Dome. It tackles short-range threats such as rockets and mortars and was developed with help from the US. It has intercepted thousands of rockets since it was instituted in 2011, and Israel claims it has a 90% success rate. Next comes David's Sling for mid-range threats. That is designed to shoot down ballistic missiles fired from between 40 kilometers to 300 kilometers away. Again, it was developed in collaboration with the US. And the outermost layer is the Arrow, for the longer-range ballistic missiles. It operates outside the Earth's atmosphere in space, which allows for the safe dispersal of any non-conventional warheads. Regardless of the method, intercepting rockets is a costly business. The cost of one Arrow interceptor missile is between $2 and $3.5 million. According to media reports, 110 of them were used to defend against the Iranian attack, suggesting a cost of $385 million. The mid-range rockets from the David Sling system are about $1 million each. Estimates put the cost at $550 million to $1.1 billion just for the April operation. There is another important layer too. Israel's Air Force, a key part of its defence picture. And, in addition to all this, there are new tools coming online, such as the laser-powered Iron Beam, set to be integrated into Israel's multi-layered and seemingly successful air defense system.
Supporters of the founder of the Telegram messaging app are demanding his release after his arrest at a Paris airport. French authorities accuse Russian-born billionaire Pavel Durov of failing to stamp out criminal activity on the platform.
A white paper plane, the logo of the Telegram messaging app.
supporters of Pavel Durov leave them outside the French embassy in Moscow in protest at the app founder's arrest near
I support him because I feel sorry for him.
The Russian parliament's deputy speaker is among those calling for Durov's release.
People like Pavel Durov should be appreciated and respected. They should not be imprisoned. The value of Telegram is already bigger than Gazprom. Once again, the West has trampled on freedom of speech. Freedom for Pavel Durov.
In fact, it was restrictions on freedom that drove Durov, a Russian-born billionaire, to leave the country. He says he refused to share user data with the Russian authorities. Durov, who now holds multiple citizenships, including French, founded Telegram in 2013. The platform has been praised for keeping users' data confidential. But Durov has also been criticized for failing to stop criminal and terror groups using Telegram. Elon Musk, who also refuses to moderate content on X, defended Durov and shared the hashtag #FreePavel. The Telegram platform in turn said that it's absurd to claim that a platform or its owner are responsible for abuse of that platform.
German prosecutors say a 26-year-old Syrian man has confessed to killing 3 people in a knife attack at a festival. Investigators are looking for links between the suspect and the so-called Islamic State. The terror group claims it was behind the rampage, but has provided no evidence.
A suspected killer led away in ankle chains and handcuffs. Police have transferred the man they believed responsible for the Solingen knife attack to appear in court in Karlsruhe. The 26-year-old Syrian was detained on Saturday night after giving himself up and confessing to the crime. Media reports say he was wearing blood-stained clothing. His arrest came after a day-long manhunt, which included this police raid of a hostel for asylum seekers, not far from the scene of Friday's rampage. Thousands had gathered in central Solingen for a concert and street festival when a man began stabbing people at random, killing 3 and wounding 8 others. The so-called Islamic State has claimed responsibility. The group's links to the attack are still being investigated. Germany's President Frank-Walter Steinmeier called for better security for the public. We have to better protect ourselves from attacks like that. With regard to terrorism, this might also mean an expansion of powers. Central Solingen remains cordoned off as police continue their search for evidence. Locals remain in shock over the brutal attack at a festival supposed to mark the city's 650th anniversary. On a day when celebrations should have been taking place, instead the people of Solingen are commemorating the victims of a night of bloodshed.
How long does it take to swim from one continent to another? Maybe not as long as you think if you're in Turkey. Thousands of swimmers from around the world have taken to the waters off Istanbul for the annual race across the Bosphorus. And DW correspondent Julia Hahn watched them go.
Istanbul's iconic Bosphorus Strait is normally a very busy shipping lane. But once a year, it belongs to swimmers. More than 2,800 people jumped at the challenge and swam from one continent to another on Sunday in what is one of the world's most popular open water races. The Bosphorus was closed to shipping traffic for a few hours, allowing participants to make the legendary 6.5-kilometer swim from Istanbul's Asian side to the finish line in Europe. It's pretty exciting, even if you're only here as a spectator. The race's challenge is, by the way, not only its distance, but swimmers also need to navigate the powerful currents. Otherwise, they risk being swept away and not making it across the finish line. Some contestants are professional swimmers, others brave amateurs. They have trained extensively for this day. The tradition began in 1989 with just a few dozen swimmers. This year, participants came from more than 70 different countries.
It was something that I wanted to do for 6 years, and now I finally made my dream come true.
You can get from one continent to the other continent just by swimming. I think that's really fantastic, and that was the aim, for me.
You need to find the current, the right current. You need to have a reference point that are absolutely fundamental, and then just a sprint at the end. So, yeah.
This year's cross-continental champion comes from Turkey. Atakan Ercan swam the 6.5 kilometers in 45 minutes and 27 seconds. The fastest woman was Talya Erdoğan, who finished in just under 47 minutes. But for many here, it's not so much about winning, but about coming together and sharing a unique experience in these famous waters between two continents.
Now, how old is too old to jump out of an airplane? One British woman obviously thinks the sky is the limit. Manette Bailey celebrated her 102nd birthday by going skydiving, becoming the UK's oldest parachutist. But she shared her glory. She used the jump to raise €10,500 for charity. Now, Manette Bailey has had her share of adrenaline rushes. She celebrated her 100th birthday racing a Ferrari. Well, you're up to date, but keep it here on DW. Up next, the challenge of providing a better education for hundreds of millions of the world's most disadvantaged children. I'm David Levitz. Thanks for watching.
Some people treat us as if we're inferior because we can't read or write. But I see it this way. We are all equal.
Not being able to do your ABCs or times tables is no measure of intelligence. It's about having proper access to education. Millions of people worldwide miss out on school, and yet education is a human right.
In 2022, 250 million children worldwide did not attend school. One of the main reasons is poverty. In the wealthiest countries in the world, children go to school for an average of 10 years. In the poorest countries, it's not even 3. Many schools are poorly equipped, and often they are far away. Many children don't go to school because they have to help their parents, either with chores at home or help earn an income. Another reason for the education crisis is the global teacher shortage. According to UN estimates, an additional 44 million primary and secondary teachers will be needed worldwide by 2030, 15 million in sub-Saharan Africa alone.
They say it's the profession that creates all other professions, that makes all other professions possible. You would think that there'd be a lot of respect for the occupation and that people would be very well paid. But despite the advances made in education, that is generally not the case. And so fewer people have decided to go into it.
Schools are also often the scene of war and crises. According to the study Education Under Attack, more than 5,000 attacks on educational institutions were registered in 2020 and 2021. A third reason for the problems in the education system, COVID-19. In Uganda, schools remained closed for 83 weeks during the pandemic. Worldwide, over 500 million pupils were unable to take part in online learning. Wealthier countries were able to digitize teaching content during the pandemic. This enabled pupils to learn how to use the new technologies. According to the UNESCO World Education Report, digital media has positive effects on learning, but only if they are also pedagogically supported. To date, only half of all countries worldwide have defined training standards for the IT skills of their teachers. Yet teaching these skills is now more important than ever. Artificial intelligence has long since arrived in the classroom, but unregulated AI systems can threaten democracy and human rights if they are used to incite hatred and violence. Despite all the concerns, education expert Mark Natnagara believes that artificial intelligence is nothing to worry about.
There's no stopping the wave of digitalization and artificial intelligence. We've already been using it. The thing that hit us so quickly was this ability to do generative AI, where it's producing something really concrete, like a whole essay or a picture or now a video. I don't know if you've seen Sora, OpenAI's.
The World Economic Forum also addressed the topic of Education 4.0. In addition to data analysis and programming, schools should promote social skills that focus on people, such as collaboration, empathy, social awareness, and global responsibility. In its report on the future of schools, UNESCO also focuses on global connections. The Earth should be seen as an interdependent system of people, animals, and the environment. And additionally, schools should teach kids how to recognize fake news.
I think every teacher should be teaching students how to critically think, how to analyze, how to evaluate, how to make good decisions. We don't want to get too caught up in the content and specific knowledge, because knowledge is constantly changing and advancing. We don't know what tomorrow's careers are going to be. So let's teach students how to think.
His days begin early and always have. José Santos comes from the poor northeast of Brazil. When he was just 5 years old, his mother left him with an aunt in the countryside out of necessity. But instead of sending him to school, she sent him to harvest cocoa.
She gave me a hoe and a machete and told me I have to work if I wanted something to eat. I had to wake up at 5 in the morning. There was no bread or cookies or anything for breakfast, just coffee with manioc flour. I worked in the fields from 7 till noon. I'd go home for lunch, then went back to pick cocoa. On Fridays, we cut bananas to sell on Saturdays.
If he didn't obey, he was beaten. Right before he turned 18, he finally ran away. He went to school for the first time, but only briefly. He had to earn a living, and there were no evening classes in the countryside. But José always got by doing various part-time jobs. These days, he works as a cleaner on the campus of Rio de Janeiro's State University. As an illiterate man, José doesn't have the self-esteem to apply for other jobs.
I was once approached and asked if I wanted to be a foreman, but I refused because I had no schooling. I knew they would ask me about my schooling.
He's not the only illiterate person in the cleaning crew. Sometimes feel ashamed and are often treated unjustly.
Some people treat us as if we're inferior because we can't read or write. But I see it this way. We are all equal. It's just that some have had the opportunity to get an education, and others haven't.
Now, at the age of 56, he's been given the chance he's long been waiting for, a free literacy course every afternoon, right here on the university campus. The group may be very small, but the problem is huge. Over 10 million Brazilians are illiterate. Around 90% of them are over 40. Like José, many have had to work from an early age, so the lessons here start from the very beginning. Daniele Soares wants to teach her students something more besides the alphabet: self-confidence. The 22-year-old is a student teacher at university. She knows the problem from home. Her parents didn't finish school either. But she always received full support from her family. Now she wants to help smooth the educational path for others, voluntarily.
These people are here because they were denied the right to education in their early lives. And the fact that they have this willpower, after all they've been through, after so many difficulties, that they now choose to be here, that also gives our role as educators a deeper meaning.
Brazil is one of the most populous countries in the world. Social inequality is enormous. Of the more than 200 million inhabitants, almost half have not completed or attended school. For many, this means having to work hard for barely more than a minimum wage of around 250 euros a month. Like José, as an illiterate man, he also has to struggle with the practical hurdles of everyday life. When he goes shopping, he has to pay close attention. What do the signs and packaging labels actually say?
What's the difference between these?
He asks a lot of questions and tries to hide his illiteracy. Catching the right bus is also a challenge, as José can't read the directions. He lives in São João de Meriti, in the suburbs of Rio de Janeiro. At home, his wife is his main support in everyday life. She didn't finish school either and also works as a cleaner, but she can read.
Good morning, Zé. Are you okay? This morning we have a cleaning job in Block G, first floor. Let's do a good job, okay?
These are his work instructions via text message. No one in José's cleaning company is aware that he is able to read these texts. José always sends his response as audio or emoji.
Complete the words with the following syllables.
José's top priority is for his son Breno to graduate from school. The 17-year-old helps his father with his homework so that José will also be able to manage on his own. His literacy course is an initiative of the Institute of Engineering Sciences. The Brazilian state has drastically cut spending on adult education in recent years. The project at the university also offers lessons for school dropouts with previous knowledge. It's intended to make at least a small contribution to second chance education.
It's not about everyone in the country having a doctorate. It's about these people being able to develop within their functions, within their workplace. A country in which the rights of all people are respected and protected will also help the country itself improve, both economically and socially.
The first thing José does every morning is clean the toilets. He often thinks about the many missed career opportunities in his life, but he's determined to change that now.
Who wouldn't want to be a foreman or even a supervisor and reach a management position? We have to seize the opportunity and continue school. I'm going on vacation soon, but I'll be coming here every day to attend classes. I want to continue my education, and I have to put in the effort.
There may still be a long way to go, but the first steps have been taken, and it's clear that it's the right path. Illiteracy is declining in Brazil, slowly but steadily.
I like the dancing. I feel energetic now.
Freshly energized, these kids are now ready for a music lesson. Today's schedule involves clapping and snapping to gain a sense of rhythm, and trying to stay in tune to practice intonation. It's a rare opportunity for these children in India's capital, Delhi. Most of them come from low-income households and attend government schools, where education is free from ages 6 to 14. However, what's missing from the curriculum are topics like sports, arts, and music. In the world's most populous country, parents value maths or science, wanting their children to become doctors or engineers. That often means pressure.
Every parent wants their child to grow more than they could. So if parents are here and for them success is here, they always would want their child to be here. For them, music is here.
To challenge this perception, Anurag and his peers founded an NGO in 2017, where they use music to educate.
This has been a Now Media Networks